Today we're going to talk about a fairly important topic and one that affects you directly no matter who you are, no matter where you are. Remember to click the like button, share this video on social media because I guarantee you've got a friend who has an interest in this exact topic. And of course, subscribe to the channel because that just makes our hearts sing. I think it's time we talk about one of the more important aspects of aviation that gets a lot of attention on the personal side, but we don't really talk about out in the open all that much. I think in the top three, safety, clearly number one, the thing we're most focused on. But number two, and a very important number two, is money. And number three is arguably, where can I get a hangar? That's a different thing. Let's talk about the money aspect. It really does put a crimp in people's ability or willingness to get involved in aviation, even if they really want to. They find they just can't do it, and that's the key. They find they can't, when in fact they can. It's an attitude issue. I'll give you an example. I spent some time a little while back with a friend who I met, 3, 4 years ago, maybe 5. And he's from another state. He was a student pilot when I met him, a very unsuccessful student pilot. Just wasn't working out for him. Everywhere he went, it was an instructor issue, it was a scheduling issue, it was an airplane issue. There was something all the time. And the entire time, he's running through money. I went through a very similar situation when I was a student. It's tremendously frustrating. Well, as we talked and got to know each other better, and I asked him what his ultimate goal was, and I found out he wants to be a commercial airline pilot. Not for the airlines, he wants to fly charter, corporate, that sort of thing. That's a perfectly valid choice. I have friends who do that and are really happy with it. So, knowing that his goal was to become a professional pilot, I suggested you should probably think about buying an airplane. And he had the classic reaction, a knee-jerk reaction. I can't. I don't have that kind of money. Well, yes, he could. He did have that kind of money. He had just allocated it in different ways. That's often the case. We prioritize things that aren't actually that big a deal to us because it's sort of fun or entertaining or whatever. And we don't pursue the thing that can really change our lives. And I'm not talking just about aviation. This is true in all sense, every aspect of life. It's about how we allocate our resources. He had a collector car that he drove just for fun, but he wasn't willing to part with that to get the airplane. That's perfectly fair. I have a couple motorcycles. I like having them. The point was, he had that knee-jerk reaction of, I can't. And over time, that has shifted for him. When we spoke just recently, luckily face-to-face, we get to meet up at Sun and Fun, classic place to get together with people. And his question had shifted. And now his questions were, how do I afford this? How can I best monetize that? Should I be taking out a loan? Should I be saving up? Should I sell something in order to buy something else? These are much better questions. Just shifting from I can't, which is a negative knee-jerk reaction that is not based in reality, it's based in fear, to how do I? That's a more positive intellectual response that really has a lot to do with belief in yourself. Basically, you're saying there is a path. I just don't know what it is yet. And it's okay if you don't know what it is yet. That's why we talk to people. That's why we read. That's why we watch videos. That's why we connect with smart people like Pat Brown and say, how do you do that? I get it. When I bought my first airplane, it was a struggle. It was a struggle for a long time to put away enough money. But my method actually was I just started putting money from a side job away into an account that was specifically for buying an airplane. Eventually, I would have enough money, I would find the right airplane, and I'd be able to work a deal. And that worked. And after doing that, when I eventually sold that airplane and that money went back into the account and I kept putting money into that account so that I could buy avionics or get maintenance work done, Now I could buy a better airplane. Just recently, I've been going through the process of buying and upgrading a 1999 Aircam. Regular viewers know I owned an Aircam before. This one needs a significant upgrade. It's got old two-stroke engines on it, which I do not want. So I'm going to put newer 912 engines, Rotax 912 100 horsepower. So I'll go from 130 horsepower with two-stroke power to 200 horsepower with four-stroke power. Much more comfortable for me, good fuel burn, and I've owned an Aircam with 912s before, so I know just what to expect. But the point is, buying that airplane, adding engines, over time, upgrading the panel, that's all expensive. That's all money going out. And it all comes down to, how can I do that? Instead of, well, I can't do that. And that's my challenge for you. Instead of, I can't do that, that's beyond my capability. There's no way I'll ever be able to drive that car, buy that house, whatever artificial barriers you put up in your life, they're probably not real. That's probably just a product of your imagination and fear and very reasonable anxiety that, I've never done this before. How would I go about it? For those of you who are maybe in the Dave Ramsey camp and you've got lots of depreciating liabilities and you have no appreciating assets and your bank account is not looking great, and you go and figure out your net worth and maybe it's even a negative number, that can seem pretty daunting. But it doesn't mean it has to stay that way. You can be in a better position. I've often said, you never meet anyone who can say, my life was going great until I learned to fly and it all went to crap. I've never met that person. Generally, people have a very similar reaction. I should have done this years ago. This is one of the best things I've ever done in my life, because getting into aviation isn't just about learning to fly or be a mechanic or an engineer or an air traffic control. It's different. It's about changing the way you think about you, changing your belief in your potential, widening your horizons and seeing not just literal horizons, but also metaphorical horizons. What is it that's keeping you where you are? If you run around the airport enough and go to enough events and meet enough people, you're going to find some very successful people in aviation who started out well behind where you are now financially, but they found a way, and you can too. Finance isn't really the mystery everybody thinks it is. It's just adding and subtracting. If you're putting money away towards a goal, eventually you're likely to get to that goal. If you're not, well, that's not a goal, that's a dream, and dreams kind of dissipate. Think about how your goals might be attainable and start asking the question, how would I best attain those goals? How can I put away the money? How can I work my schedule so that I have the time? How can I climb the ladder from where I am to where I want to be? Because that's a whole different mindset than just saying, I can't, let's go to the bar.